We're Chris Lee and Blake Lovell of Southeastern 14 here to react to what Coach Eli Drinkwitz at Missouri said this morning regarding the state of chaos in the NCAA as the Pac-12 has imploded. I thought Eli Drinkwitz had some great points, Blake. Tell folks if they've not seen what he said, just give that a summary and maybe read a quote or two, please.
Yeah, just right. He said this over, I think it was, I don't know, maybe Friday or this weekend sometime. But when you look at kind of what he said, a lot of people were talking about it. Obviously, conference realignment is happening. If you didn't realize that, you've probably seen us talking about it in about 83 videos at this point over the past several days. But his main kind of conversation piece, I guess you could say, and criticism of what's happening is just sort of talking about, the the players themselves, right? The student athletes, which, as we know at this point with NIL and everything going on, it's just kind of it's a wild situation. And his main point was basically talking about not just what this means for football, right? Because like
Mhm.
he says, football is going to be fine. It's college football; it'll be fine, even though you're going to have the extended travel and those kind of things. But basically, talking about what does it do to baseball and softball and volleyball and all these other sports where all of a sudden they're having to make these long trips. And obviously, we know financially there are programs on the smaller side of that in terms of visibility that don't have the financial resources that some of the others do. And I think he was specifically looking at sort of the mental health aspect, which we know there's been a lot of stuff, studies and stuff done on in recent years, especially. And he talked about just kind of, sort of the lack of rest, the lack of sleep, and just all the travel that goes into that. Teams getting in at 4 in the morning after traveling all across the place, and I think that was kind of the basis of the conversation. Chris, you watched it too, and yeah. So I mean, Natalie Jones from I think it's ABC 17 in Columbia put the tweet out kind of with a video that sort of went off on that, and everyone just kind of reacted to the video there and what he said. But it was about a 3-minute clip, which we'll put the link to it in the comments. But it's certainly a very valid point when you think about, we always say it's just kind of the revenue part of this is what schools are seeking and the financial part of this, but there's obviously so much more to it. And that's why we said it's just made this such a mess in terms of trying to figure out exactly what the right move should be with a lot of this stuff.
Well, I guess on one hand, this is the way the world works a lot of times. We like to think we have control of things, and to a limited degree we do, but you've got a very few people who make decisions for most of us. That's what happened here. And I think Eli Drinkwitz summed it up pretty well. I'm going to give you the quote. He called out the hypocrisy of, quote, the adults in the room who want to put a timeline on the transfer portal, but allow themselves to make multi-million-dollar decisions whenever they want. Of course, he's calling out school presidents. I would say that the people that are that are really holding the cards here, though, are ESPN. I mean, I think they're both culpable, but those are the people. And I don't think Eli Drinkwitz is wrong about this either. You just don't have a lot of people whose interests are represented in this whole process. We just did a new video where we called for commissioners in sports. I don't know why that's never happened, but you have a few people that are pulling everybody's strings. And, this morning, if you're at Stanford or Cal or Oregon State or Washington State, you wake up and you go, am I going to have a job? And the people that make these decisions are going to continue to make their high 6-figure and 7-figure salaries. And you've got a lot of people, student athletes, of course, included, that they're going to have to live with the consequences of those folks' decisions.
Yeah, and I mean, if you again, we've always kind of said that it's just yeah, just the decisions made at the top are mostly, focused on how it impacts and betters the decisions at the top, and not necessarily, beyond that into players and all that stuff. Because again, we've just kind of seen how all this is unfolded. But Brett McMurphy did put something out, and look, this is just one. These are two teams, right? But if you're looking at it from a travel standpoint, he did put out basically the travel times and the differences that like an Arizona and Arizona State would have in the Big 12. But I mean, that's Arizona and Arizona State, right, Chris? Like, geographically, they're not going that far when
Yeah.
you think about it in the teams in the Big 12. But then it's like, okay, UCLA playing Rutgers or something, right? I mean, that's a long way. And it's like what West Virginia, I know, I'm sure has kind of felt that when you talk about the travel they've had to do. I'm sure, being part of the Big 12, right? Anyway, so like they've been there for however long it's been now, and so yeah, I mean, look, that's again that's the non-sexy aspect of this conversation is no one wants to kind of get into that sort of stuff. It's just it's all about, oh, we're excited about this school coming here and we're going there and think about what it means for this big college football game next October and all this other stuff. But like the reality of it is it's a much more complicated situation than that. And yeah, like Drinkwitz said, I mean, this thing impacts way more than the dollar line, the dollar amount, right? Like it's much more than that. And so yeah, I mean, it's again, I know a lot of people reacted to it on Twitter and gave their opinion on different things, but I mean, you can't say the guy doesn't have a good point when it comes to this kind of stuff. So
Yeah, and we bring up the sports. The one I always think about because it's an outdoor sport and the travel times is what do you do in the case of that Rutgers UCLA baseball series that's now going to get scheduled? Uh, a lot of those Big Ten teams don't play a lot of home games till we get into April, or and even sometimes then it's dicey because you still got snow and things like that. So what do you do if do you back end all the homestands for all the Northeastern teams and give Rutgers 5 of its 10 series 5 weekends in a row? I mean, there's just so many things that are affected. The one women's volleyball match between those schools or whatever. Again, it's just a case where you don't have representation of anything other than what is ultimately what's good for football and TV, and I just don't think that's a good spot for sports to be in. How many things that we grew up on that we grew to love would we have missed out on if the rules that govern today had governed 10, 20, 30 years ago? And I keep thinking of the casualties we're going to have there in coming years.
yeah, and look, people are gonna. I mean, it's social media. People are gonna rail on Drinkwitz about this and saying Missouri started this. We think about like conference expansion and
He's
stuff.
not
But like,
wrong.
but
Yeah.
is did he make that decision? Did the football coach make that decision? I don't. I'm just what I mean. Like it's that kind of thing, and I get it. But I thought a lot of what he said. I don't know how you can really criticize it, because I think he's just someone that making it very clear the reality of the situation and sort of we can act like it's this pretty picture that only includes college football and all this other stuff and that's all that matters and sure, I'm sure to some people, and you look at the revenue producing sports and those kind of things, of course college football is king, but it's a much deeper conversation and there are much more kind of there's a bigger impact involved again when you just go beyond just college football, which
Yeah.
does exist by the way. There is stuff that exists beyond college football, so I think that was his point, and yeah, so it's certainly an interesting discussion.
Any parting thoughts on what Eli Drinkwitz said or related to it? By the way, there were some really good articles about this week, and Dana O'Neill wrote a good one in The Athletic about sort of the pointlessness of all this from the what is it really improved in terms of the product I thought was good. That's a good read. And anything else worth a mention before we end the video today?
Nope, check out everything on the channel. A lot of stuff on conference realignment we've done over the past several days. Check out all those videos. A lot more to come as things continue to swirl there. All of our previews and predictions for the upcoming season in college football are there as well. So check it all out. Hit that subscribe button.
There's one thing missing.
Dennis Gates. Oh, I forgot. It's a
There it
Missouri
is.
related
There it
video.
is.
Dennis Gates, folks. They will be back on the court before you know it. So there you go.
As his agent,
Sorry,
you're
Missouri fans.
contractually obligated to
That
mention
was
Dennis
true.
Gates.
I was almost breach of contract, which apparently doesn't matter anymore if you're in the Pac-12 and ACC and
Right.
Big Ten, and who cares? Breach of contract. Anyways, Dennis Gates.
That's why we have attorneys. All right. He is Blake Lovell. I'm Chris Lee. We're Southeastern 14. Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that subscribe button. That helps us, helps our analytics. We'll see you again soon with more baseball, football, and basketball content regarding the SEC and college sports.